Hello and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT-Exiles podcast. I'm Brett Lyons-Davis and I'm joined on the line by Gary Winter and Luke Bomber Davies. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, all good here. Thank you, Brett. Good to be involved.
Yeah, Gary, how are you doing?
Yeah, excellent, particularly after that result just now.
It was a very enjoyable 3 points. We are literally recording it. The time is 5 to 10. Literally after the Rochdale game. So 2-1 in the bag for Sunderland. We'll talk more about it, but there's three happy campers here, definitely. But you might have seen at the beginning of the summer, the ROKER Report put out a call to get more Sunderland supporters on board and supply new content. And us three, along with another 9, have formed the Exiles group. So Sunderland supporters from all over the UK, as well as Europe, have come together. And the difference with us is we're not based in Sunderland or the North East. Some of us, like myself, are born and raised in Milton Keynes. My parents are from Sunderland. My dad forced me to be a Sunderland supporter at a young age. I've then, made my daughter support Sunderland as well, as tradition goes. Some of the guys are from Sunderland and have moved away from the area. Others who are just insane support Sunderland for no good reason. But as I say, we'll be talking to all of these guys over the season and giving you a bit more what it's like being the only Sunderland supporter in the village. And as I say, for those of you who've got kids, what their life is like, growing up as an exile, how we keep up to date with all the goings on Wearside. But also we'll be talking about today's game. We'll also be looking at AFC Wimbledon on Saturday. And also throughout the season, as we get to go games ourselves, we'll be mentioning them as well. A little bit about myself. As I said, I'm born and raised in Milton Keynes. I started watching Sunderland in 1990. So next year in February will be my 30th season. A 1-1 draw with Watford. So some things never change. And as I said, I took my 6-year-old daughter to her first game last season, a 1-1 draw with Portsmouth. So again, it does run in the family. I've seen some absolutely great Sunderland games. Seen us beat Oxford 7-0. Saw us beat Millwall 6-0 back at ROKER Park when it was first v second, and we actually went up and Millwall went down that season. Also some bad times, losing 7-2 to Chelsea. I was at Selhurst Park when we were relegated that season. I was at Old Trafford when Cantona scored that iconic trip. So, I've been to some good games. Tried to get to 10, 12 games a year. Last year did Port Vale, Burton, Wickham, Oxford, Southend, Oxford's, Walsall and Portsmouth at home. So try to get as many games as I can. I've got my ticket today for Peterborough in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, so that is me. Gary, yourself, what's your background supporting the lads?
Likewise, my dad was born in Sunderland. He took me to my first game at ROKER Park in 94, 1-1 against Wolves. No surprise again. I think Phil Gray scored that day. It just stuck from then. I grew up with a lot of Spurs fans around me, so it would have been easy to go down that route. But I just guess it was character building, to say the least, going to school down south amongst Spurs fans who had no idea who Sunderland were. And I kind of thrived just listening to all the kind of rubbish banter directed towards me, which just made it even better when I think it was under Keane that first day in the 2007-8 season when we scored in the last minute. It was a chopper against Spurs, first game of the season, so we were top of the league. So that was worth waiting for from me. And likewise, just been to some of the tough games, Wembley games. Charlton, 21 years apart, I saw both games. And yeah, just still though, I just wouldn't swap it for anything.
No, I agree with you there, especially, say, myself living down south. All of my mates are Spurs fans. I know that Chopra game in particular was very, very special. It seemed to be so long since we had a result over them. I also enjoyed the Dibble Cisse game as well, his first game when he scored against them.
That was the one at White Hart Lane, was it? Yeah, I was at that game. That was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was very good. And we've also got on the line Bomber Davies. I think going forward, I'm just going to refer to you as Bomber. Before I even ask you about yourself being a Sunderland fan, where's the nickname come from?
It's actually quite a boring story that I'm not gonna go into, Brett. It's a football nickname that I've had for the best part of like 10, 12 years or so. There's worse nicknames that you could have, and pretty much only my mum and dad are the only people who call me Luke nowadays. So yeah, Bomber it is. That's fine.
So then, Bomber, how did you come about being a Sunderland fan?
So my story is probably, well, as you put it, Brett, one of the more weird ones. I don't come from the northeast. I was born and raised in Gloucester. My parents were born and raised in Gloucester. I've got absolutely no ties to the northeast or to Sunderland whatsoever. A lot of people listening are probably thinking, why on earth are you a Sunderland fan? Basically, my story goes back to the Charlton playoff. Obviously not the one recently, the previous. When I was younger, Gloucester being a rugby town, there's not really anyone local to support. So I was more of a fan of players rather than teams. So back in like junior school, I liked Ryan Giggs, so I followed Man United, and all my friends supported Man United. So I was kind of like, yeah, all right, I'll follow them. And then I got a bit captured by the story of the playoff final. I watched it. Super Kev quickly became one of my favourite players. Started following the results. Grew an affinity to Quinny as well, and then obviously following that we got promoted, record number of points. I think it was a 105 point season, and the rest is history really. I decided at that moment that they were going to be my team. I suppose at the time, in hindsight, you probably would call me a bit of a glory supporter, but the 15 years or however many years it's been since, I certainly can't have that accusation thrown at me since.
No, any glory you have had has well and truly evaporated over the past sort of 10 years, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. It's definitely, but there's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been an awful lot of downs, but I think it'd be easy for me to go and stick with the United, or even if I wanted a local team like a Villa or someone like that. But when you're supporting someone like Sunderland, who have so many lows over the past decade or so, it makes you appreciate the highs that little bit more. The Barini goal in the League Cup final, the diving header from Gooch at the beginning of last season. Those moments they don't come around too often. So it makes you treasure them that little bit more.
Oh, 100%. Definitely agree with you there. I always find as well, one thing for me, whenever I sort of speak to anybody now about, like, if I'm at a wedding or a meeting or something, and the topic will 9 out of 10 times turn to football, and someone says to you, so what team do you support? And I say obviously back Sunderland with my accent. The first thing I get back is a, really? Why? And I think people actually come to respect you more for it. Not only do you support a team that is in my sense is over 200 miles away from where I live, but we're not the best team in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but people seem to like that. And whenever you say that, though, I always find that people actually quite like Sunderland.
Yeah, so I've never really, whenever I come across somebody and they're like, oh, who do you support then? And I have to almost embarrassingly go, oh, I'm a Sunderland fan. And they ask the story, I tell them the story. And normally it's kind of like, oh, do you know what? Fair play. Yeah. So yeah, well, the fair play tends to come after the sympathy of, oh, that's terrible for you. But fair play, such has been our fall over the last 4 or 5 years or so. It's been met more with sympathy than anything else.
No, yeah, you do get the look, don't you? But no, but let's say that, and that is what this is all about, though. It's this whole point of this podcast is to let those guys up in Sunderland know that because it's a massive club. It is an absolutely massive club. And even coming back from the playoff final, coming to Milton Keynes Station from Euston, there must have been about 30 Sunderland fans come off the train in Milton Keynes. And they're everywhere. Now, no matter where you seem to go in the country, around the world, I was on my honeymoon in the Maldives and there was a Sunderland fan there. We are literally everywhere. And I think it does show how big this team actually, how big this club actually is. And sometimes I think we actually fully appreciate it.
Yeah, I think not being around the Northeast and not being around the club all the time, you do kind of think that you're in your own little bubble locally. I mean, I was in not such as big a situation, but when I went down for the playoff final, I caught 6 o'clock bus from Gloucester bus station. There was probably about 5 or 6 people on the bus in total, and lo and behold, the bloke who was sat behind me had a Sunderland shirt on and was going down to Wembley as well. So I had a little chat with him down on the bus, and that was the last thing I was expecting. Really, was to find somebody else in a Sunderland shirt on their way down to Wembley, catching a 6 o'clock bus from Gloucester bus station. So yeah. It's definitely something that you take for granted, and you think you're in your own little bubble and you're the only person in your town that's a Sunderland fan. But yeah, they are about. They're just in hiding. I don't know whether that's due to the the years of not necessarily being the proudest of Sunderland fans, but we stick with it, and it looks like we're on a bit of an upward curve.
Right. So we're the time is it's just 10:10 now. So we're about half an hour after the game there at Rochdale, winning 2-1. Gary, what was your sort of initial thoughts of the game then?
I thought it was a typical kind of first half from us, Brett. We were really slow out the blocks, like just against Portsmouth on Saturday. The first 25 minutes was slow, not much happening. And again, we just couldn't take the initiative, couldn't control the game, get our foot on the ball and dictate the tempo. And I guess when McGeady scored, I think it was 28 minutes in, it was actually a bit of a surprise. And I think McGeady just has a lot of weight on his shoulders in this team, and he just comes up time and time again. So much pressure on him. But as I say, that was kind of against the run of play. Neither team had really created much. It was just, he's just popped up there with that goal. And again, with our conversion rate, shots to goals is quite incredible. Sometimes we don't seem to create a lot, but then when that chance falls, McGeady's kind of put it in. But that's kind of the first half. And then typical Sunderland, they've let Rochdale back in. Yeah, as I say, half time comes, and I don't know, there wasn't too many boos this time, which was good. I guess we're trying to build a bit of momentum. Second half, I thought much better from us. We started taking the game to Rochdale in terms of shots anyway. I think the possession stats are quite disappointing, to be honest. I just don't think we really got the ball down. We had some nice spells here and there in the game, but ultimately I think Rochdale were knocking the ball around better than us. I just think the goal, Charlie Wyke, I think when things are just going your way, McGeady knocks it down, it gets caught between his legs. But ultimately it finds its way in the back of the net, and I think Will Grigg probably couldn't buy a chance like that at the moment. And you're
exactly right there. What you're saying about the first half, I thought the exact same. Up until 27th, 28th minute when we actually scored, we weren't in the game, I didn't think. And I don't know what it is. We just seem to be starting games really, really slowly. Obviously although today we didn't concede first, the last 3 games in the league we've conceded first, and I don't know what it is where we're not warmed up. We're not warmed up at all for games. Obviously, we scored in the 27th minute, and we probably then had our best 5 minutes of the first half after that, and then it was just a really sloppy goal to give away. I'm not actually sure for the goal itself if it took a nick off someone, because McLaughlin just looked completely wrong-footed by it. I watched it on the SAFC stream, and obviously you don't get the replay from all angles. I can't work out if he just didn't see it or what. But no, we're just not getting going. Yeah, and as you say, half time is one thing that does frustrate me this season. I actually thought it was a really good comment that Stuart Donald made in the podcast on Saturday, is where with the expectation being so high now with this team, but the players aren't the League One players for a reason. Aidan McGeady should be obviously a far better player than the league, but he's in League One. They're not. The pressure for Sunderland to win every game is massive. When we was in the Premiership, we didn't expect to win games, so it didn't really matter if we were losing, but as long as we gave it a go. But we kind of turned it around. I thought, for me, the first half, the man of the match, and probably been our signing so far, I don't know what you guys think, was Willis at the back. I think he himself's been an absolutely fantastic signing for me.
I love Willis. I absolutely love Willis. I was in some of my frustrations in that first half. I actually was a bit sad, and I kept a tally of Willis's contributions, and he just kept winning everything in the air. Nothing was getting past him. So I was like, I'm actually going to keep a tally. So in terms of one-on-one challenges and headers that Willis has gone up for, he was 14-0.
Wow.
Against any of the Rochdale players today, yeah. And then I think just going back a little bit to that Portsmouth game, that header as well. The last 2 games in particular, I think he's really come into his own. He got a little bit of stick at the start of the season, but he was the best for me. He was the best player tonight, and we'll rely on him massively. And he's been what we've been crying out for.
I was actually amazed to hear last week that was his first headed goal.
Really?
Yeah, he said in an interview afterwards that was his first headed goal he scored, and I thought that was amazing because the bloke looks like he'd win every header ever. It's just he has been an absolute rock at the back, and I must admit, the pairing has got to be now going forward, him and Ozturk together. They seem such a compared to Flanagan and Baldwin, them two seem solid to me.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Like, I think a lot was made of, was it Henderson, the Rochdale striker, who is supposed to be breaking all sorts of the Rochdale goal scoring records this season. I don't really think you would have noticed that he was on the pitch tonight, such as the job that Ozturk and Willis did. Any chances that Rochdale had seemed to come from either a little bit deeper or from out wide. It certainly didn't get in behind the centre halves from what I can remember.
No, but it didn't. And that is actually one point I've wrote down today is our fullbacks. Playing as when I was sort of playing Sunday League and sort of Saturday football when I was younger, I was a right back. Now I do feel for McLaughlin as a right-footed player having to play on the left, because I was sort of watching like yourself watching Willis. I was sort of watching him, especially in the second half, where he'd pick the ball up. And he, as a professional footballer, he should be able to kick with his left foot. He is so right-footed. He's got to play on the right. He's not going to play well on the left. And I don't know where that puts O'Neill, because I actually think he's fantastic. I'd actually like to see him further forward personally. And I don't know what you guys think.
Yes, I think the same. I think O'Neill, he does a job there. He's not the answer. We quite clearly need a couple of new fullbacks. I'm a bit loath to kind of dig out McLaughlin a little bit, because on some of the notes that I made on the game, there was 2 or 3 times where he'd pick up the ball on the left-hand side, where we'd knocked it around relatively easily and quite well at the back, and then he'd just play a ball down the line. But because he's right-footed, that ball is travelling from right to left, and he's kicked it out for a throw-in, I think 3, maybe even 4 times, trying to play that ball down the line. And I think he gave away a couple of silly free kicks as well, where the player had got on the outside of him, and where he's used to, I guess, turning. When players are going down the outside, he's used to turning to the right. He's having to turn to the left. He's lost that little bit of an edge. And he did give away a couple of silly free kicks in and around the box today as well. No,
and I agree with that. Because his angles, he's not used to the angles. And so that's what I say. I'm not digging him out at all. I'd like to see him at right back. If you've bought a player to be right back, play him right back. Obviously, and also I don't think it's giving any confidence to Denver Hume. You've got a left back there who we're not playing at all. Gary,
No.
Gary, what do you think's where should we be doing sort of like fullback wise?
I mean, I'm going to be a little harsher on C. McLaughlin. I just think that, I mean, you pointed out as a professional footballer that he should probably be able to kick with both feet. And yes, I can make an exception for him that position-wise it's not easy kicking with your right foot down the left. But some things for me are just simple things. I guess it started for me. I went to Ipswich away, and the amount of times the ball either rolled over his foot or under his foot, and these types of things for me are just unacceptable. I just think whether he's right or left, I think he should be doing better. And tonight, I just think that a lot of the attacks, particularly later on, it was the 16-year-old for Rochdale, Matheson, seemed to be getting the better of him quite a bit and finding a lot of space down that side. So some of those dangerous crosses coming in just seemed to be coming down McLaughlin's side. And particularly there was one, I think it might have been in the very last minute. Luckily, I think it fell to the less than prolific striker, the Calvin Andrew, just headed it into the goalkeeper's arms. But I mean, anyone else that could have been in, and then we're looking at a 2-2. As far as O'Neill goes, massive fan of O'Neill. But the thing is, like you said, he's not really a right back, and then you get the best of both tonight with O'Neill. So the goal for Rochdale actually comes down O'Nine's side. The ball is played across our box to the edge, and whether McLaughlin's wrong-footed or not, I'm not sure, but that ends up in a goal. But then 2 brilliant runs down the right by O'Neill, that one where he gets to the byline and hooks it back for McGeady to knock to White. it's brilliant work. But then that kind of exposes the weakness as well as the strength. That's where I'm at with the fullbacks.
I'd always like to see 09 in the middle, because that is the one place we sort of really lack. Well, I think pace in general in that team is lacking. I think we'd all agree on that. But I'd like to see 09 moved into the centre. Ledbetter, I'm surprised he played today. Although I think he actually played all right in the main. I think the legs have gone a bit, but he's a bit of a strength on it. I think it's not everyone's a fan, but I think he's okay in corners. We started, I don't think we'd scored a corner since until he arrived last season. Him and Power, I think, are too similar to each other. Power seems to have completely gone off the boil for me, even after his first sort of 5-6 games with us, when he seemed to be really on fire, and then he had a couple of send-ins off, and I don't think he's ever recovered from that. I don't know. Again, sort of like Luke, what do you think, sort of in the centre of the park? Where do you think, does it work them too, or would you change things around?
I think he had to stick with it. So Jack Ross had to stick with it after the Portsmouth game. Obviously, they both played in the middle there against Portsmouth, and the result dictated that they had to start again today. I think Power, he's certainly got better this season. I don't think either of the two centre midfielders were particularly brilliant today. I think Ledbetter was, whilst not doing anything particularly wrong, he was a little bit anonymous. But I do agree with you that I think he's that little bit older. His legs probably have gone, and I think Max Power probably bails him out in that respect. So when Max Power is playing well, I think he makes Ledbetter look that little bit better, because he can kind of cover areas of the pitch that Ledbetter can't get to. I wouldn't see it as being my centre midfield pairing for the season. I mean, for one, Ledbetter's not gonna get through a 46 game season without having to miss a few from fatigue or from injury. I'm surprised that Dobson hasn't been given more of a run in the last couple of games. I thought he was a little bit unlucky to lose his place in the team in the first place. I know the change of formation probably dictated that a little bit. I think McGeoch's been a little bit unlucky to lose his place in the team as well. But you can't start everybody. No. And like I said, the team kind of gets dictated to by the results at the moment. And, from it being all doom and gloom when the final whistle went against Oxford, comparing that to the final whistle against Portsmouth, the results will dictate who's not just in those positions, who will start in those positions, but who will start in that starting 11. It's no surprise that today we've lined up with only one change that was enforced, because McNulty went off with it a thigh strain or a hamstring strain he picked up against Portsmouth. I think it was a thigh strain he got, didn't he? When he did it fouling someone, if I remember rightly, on Saturday. But no, I actually think McNulty is actually going to be a really good player for us this season. I think up front, White. I like White. I think he's worked hard, and every single ball, all of a sudden, is sticking to him. I think he came. I don't know what that was on Saturday. I think it was something like he won 14 headers or something. Yeah, like within 30 minutes or something. It was something, he was winning everything. And again, I thought today he did a shift. He got, as you say, he got a goal that Will Grigg would have absolutely loved the ball to have dropped to his feet there. The only thing I think with him is he needs support around him. One sort of Maguire, I don't think always fits that role as to play off the striker. I know he got a goal on Saturday. Today, I think he wasn't. I think he actually played better when he went out wide a little bit and had a bit more of he could get down that touch line sort of thing. So I think we do need somebody up front. If we're going to play White, he just needs support. He needs McGeady right near him. He needs Gooch, if he's playing right-sided, to be right. They all need to be really, instead of like a flat 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1, we almost need to have three up front sort of thing, just to help Wyke out. Yeah. Because, he needs something. He can't be winning the headers and having no one around him for 10, 15 yards. So on the wing, I know you're not the biggest fan of Gooch. From talking to you earlier, Bomber. So Gooch is a bit of an enigma for me. So he has been great. He was decent against Portsmouth. He hasn't been bad, but today he just frustrated the hell out of me. There's so many loose touches that he lost the ball, or he's trying to play passes, which he's just playing it straight into Rochdale players. As I said before, I spilt half a bottle of beer shouting at him in the first half, so he's not in my good books at the moment. But yeah, he's frustrating because he can be very, very good when he's on form, and when he's directing, when he's running at people and he's running behind, he can be very effective. But today, maybe I'm being a bit harsh because I've managed to spill some alcohol as a result of him, but I don't think I've seen somebody give the ball away so much in one half of football. And I was quite pleased. Again, when I was writing notes when I was watching the game, I've written Gooch off for Grigg, ... good, with about 5 exclamation marks after it. So yeah, it's a funny one for me with Gooch. There doesn't seem to be anything in between. He's either very, very good or he's just awful.
Gary, what's your thoughts on Gooch? Is he the man for the right hand side, or would you bring somebody else in?
For me, Brett, it's just a case of long, grueling season ahead, and I think he's got a part to play in the squad. Like Luke said, he has great games. He's had some good games to start the season. Obviously, bagged a couple in the first 2. But yeah, tonight was one of those nights for him, and we've come to see that particularly in the second half of the season last year. So I just think sometimes it's going to require Maguire going over to that side. Obviously, in the game, McGeady tends to switch over sometimes. As I say, I think there's a role for him, but is he going to be one of the key men in Sunderland's promotion push? I don't know. I guess there's other players that I'd probably put more emphasis on, but there's always going to be a place for him, because when teams are doubling up on McGeady, even Maguire sometimes when he's on form, White's a big guy up front that drags the attention of defenders. So Gooch is going to be that spare man that could drop into a bit of space, and if he can produce something, then he could be quite dangerous for us.
I actually like Gooch as a player. I do think he's hard working. He's grafter. He's got that little bit of niggle about him. I think that you definitely need in this league. We've got a few of those players now, which is I think you need to be a bit, not quite, I wouldn't use the phrase streetwise, but it's a rough and tough league we're in, where you can't just sort of play your way out. You need to sometimes have that niggle to get through games. Obviously, we had that last season with Catamol. God bless him. He's left these shores. But no, I like Gooch, to be fair. Regarding the game, then, so who would your man of the match be today, Luke? Are you going for Willis?
I think it's a toss-up for me. It's Willis, like I said, 14-0 in terms of those aerial battles with those one-on-ones, and he was just such a presence. And like I said, before the game, everyone's talking about Ian Henderson, everyone's talking about him breaking Rochdale's goal-scoring records, etc. And he was anonymous today, and that's by and large down to Willis. I think Charlie White deserves a mention as well. For what he's been through and some of the criticism he's taken. It looks like we're finally getting a player, or the player that we thought we were getting last summer. He was battling for everything. He was chasing everything down. The old cliche, he took one for the team when he got booked in that second half. They're running down the left-hand side, and he probably chased 20, 30 yards back, gave away a foul on the halfway line, took the book in. And, that's the sort of work rate that Sunderland fans will appreciate. And he got his goal as well. He didn't really put a foot wrong. He linked up quite well with Grigg when Grigg came on. It's a toss-up for those two for me. But I think just because I had such a vested interest in Willis during the course of this game for some reason, Jordan Willis gets it for me.
You're going for Willis. Gary, who was your man of the match?
I've got similar. I'm going to add another one to the mix. But yeah, Willis I thought was really good. Obviously, they did get a few chances, but we're not going to stop them all. So yeah, I thought Willis did a great job. I think White obviously does deserve a mention in there. Like I said, very gritty centre forward performance by White, just what we need at the moment. Because if I'm honest, I don't think being a striker in this side, even though it looks good on paper, some of the guys that are playing around you, it just doesn't look like the most fun position to play in this team. It just seems to have more emphasis on someone who kind of gets into defenders, is a bit of a nuisance, holds people off, that kind of gritty play rather than getting chances laid on a plate, which is why I think Grigg's partly having such a hard time. He looked more up for it today. The third one I'm going to throw in is McGeady, just because I think when it really matters, I think his goal, I know the work by O'Nien's really good and he deserves some mention as well. Just the first goal, the finish is for me great by McGeady, and then as I say, second goal, he's just there at that back post to nod one down. So involved in both the key key goals for Sunderland tonight. So for me, McGeady just edges it, and his work rate as well, I thought was excellent.
Do you know what? I'm pleased you said that, actually, because I thought McGeady, apart from the goal, he's always great as an outlet. You know, the ball sticks to him. You know, he'll take on a man, he'll get down the wing, but he was also defensively. I actually thought he was helping out McLaughlin a lot in that second half. You know, there was a lot of times where he was, you know, in line of our 18-yard box sort of thing. So, you know, I thought for me, you know, say man of the match, I'd have a man of the half. So it was Willis the first half, McGeady second half for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
You know, so I thought they both had, you know, say really good games. Overall, I think it was as a team, it was a good performance as a holding on to a result. It wasn't a great performance. It was a job done, backs to the wall, not out of second gear. It kind of felt like there was points of like last season. We went on a bit of that unbeaten run, but was never really great. I spent all last season thinking we're going to do but at some point it's all going to click into place and we'll do someone like 4-5-0 and then it's away we go. And it never ever happened. And so far, like this season, for me, we're not out of second gear yet. You know, we're just looking at the tables at the moment. I know it's really early days. Obviously, we've only been 4 games in. We're actually in 6th at the moment at 8 points. There's us, Ipswich, Wickham, and Coventry all on 8 points. So we're technically joint 3rd. You know, it's a good start. Had we beaten Oxford that first game of the season, drew of Ipswich, we'd have been well chuffed for that. But you know, it's the performances as it's the last 2 games are enough. But I think on against a better team today, who could, as you say, who could have taken us. Rochdale had 2 or 3 good chances at the end that McLaughlin had to make saves for. He tipped one just around the post. The other, say, the one the header, the guy was completely unmarked in the centre. You know, thankfully, he managed to catch it. Better teams, I think, would have taken something off us today. So a lot of work to do, but enjoy, you know, I'm going to enjoy it. As we said right at the beginning, you know, being Sunderland fans, let's enjoy the wins. You know, and that's exactly what we need to be doing. But looking forward now to the weekend, obviously it's AFC Wimbledon. Bombard, Luke, is there anything that you would look at changing in that team ahead of Saturday's game?
I kind of just reiterate what I said earlier. You know, at the moment, we're playing well in patches, but the results dictate the team selection for me at the moment. You know, it's kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I'll take patchy performances if the results keep coming. And so far, that seems to be what's happened. You know, we've not played particularly brilliantly. We've certainly not played well throughout a 90-minute period. There's not an awful lot that I would change. I would possibly look at perhaps bringing Denver Hume back in. I think he's been out the team for a couple of games now. Yes, Jack Ross brought him back in for the last kind of, was it 10 minutes or so in the Portsmouth game? But I think a game against, I don't want to sound disrespectful to AFC Wimbledon, but a game against Wimbledon would be a perfect opportunity to bring him back in as part of a flat back 4. Let's move McLaughlin back over to right back so that he can finally play in his preferred position. And then it's a case of, what do you do with Luke O'Nien? Based on today, I would start him in place of Gooch and drop Gooch down to the bench. So your front 3 essentially, or front 4, is White, McGeady, Maguire, and O'Nien. That's probably the only personnel change I'd make. For me, White retains his place up top, although Grigg did well when he came on. He worked hard. White's been good for us the last couple of games. He's got his goal tonight, which will do him a world of good. He keeps his place. The 2 centre-backs keep their place. The only other place I would question, I don't know what you 2 guys think, is what you do with the centre midfield 2.
I think I would be, and again, not because of performance, purely because of fatigue, I'd be looking at taking Ledbetter out on Saturday. In the end, I'd like to see Dobson or Mickey off in the centre, just to freshen it up, if anything. Say it's not a criticism of Ledbetter. I think he's done enough to have kept his place, but I don't think he can play 3 games in a week. I was actually surprised he started today, if I'm honest. So, you know, I'll be quite happy if Saturday, like you just said, Denver Hume's in, McLaughlin's on the right, O'Neill as right wing. I'll be more than happy to see that team line up. Gary, what are your thoughts?
I wouldn't disagree with any of what was just said. Same with Leadbitter, though, tonight. I think I was surprised that he started, because in my head I had it down as maybe Dobson coming back in tonight, and then I was thinking Power maybe take a rest on Saturday, just being that he didn't have much of a pre-season. He's played back-to-back games, Accrington and Portsmouth, and tonight. He just might need a rest there, and maybe that's why he went off. But that seems like too many changes when I think about it. Leadbitter and Power out centre midfield. But I think O'Nien, I probably want to leave at right back. It's just, we say about giving him a chance in midfield, and I know he's not had a run of games. It's just when he gets the opportunity like that, the game away at Ipswich, he didn't exactly seize the opportunity. So I'd be a bit wary of that change. Embleton is one that I was looking forward to watching the season, and I think it's a real shame that I know he didn't do too much in that first game against Oxford, but it's a real shame. It's just one of those that if we can't bleed a player in League One of that talent and age, I mean, he's gone through the England ranks. They obviously see something good in him. I'm not sure what kind of message that sends out to the other guys looking to sign contracts and stay with the team, as if this is a place to play your football and get opportunities. So for me, I'd quite like to see Embleton just get a run in the team. And again, I don't want to disrespect AFC Wimbledon. It's at home, and there's part of me that just thinks those are the kind of games that we should be taking to them, and we should be able to put a Denver Hume back in and Embleton in and win the game.
When we got relegated from the Championship, that was one of the straws to cling on to as well. Look, we can clear the decks, bring the kids in and almost rebuild. But then I think all of a sudden the urgency that we must get back to the Championship has kind of stopped that. And I do think as supporters, as a team, as a club, we're hard on the young players. Like the youth, we don't seem to want to give them that. We expect them to be almost like the class of '92 and be amazing world beaters. But that team famously lost to Aston Villa the first game of the season. So you've got to give they're going to make mistakes. Denver Hume at left back will definitely make mistakes and may cost us a couple of goals. But
yeah, it's an interesting. Sorry, Brett, I was going to say it's an interesting point that you make there about the young players and kind of the pressure we put on them. I think we've been so lucky as a fan base. We've been so lucky that we've seen the likes of Pickford, of Henderson, of Madja. We've been blessed with these real talented young players that have done it from the age of 18. We expect every single 17, 18, 19-year-old that comes into the first team to be another Jordan Henderson, to be another Josh Madja. And in reality, that's not going to happen. But as a fan base, we expect any new young player that comes into that team, we expect them to be what Jordan Henderson was at 19, 20. We expect him to be at that sort of level. But in reality, you're not going to get that kind of Manchester United class of 92 where everyone's a world beater. We've just been very fortunate that we've got a good academy set up and we've had a good group of youngsters. Not saying the likes of Embleton, Hume and the rest aren't good, but we just expect them to come in and just to automatically be the finished product. We're constantly looking for that next young local lad to come and pin our hopes to. And I think it's unfair pressure on some of the young players. They'll get there, but they just need to be treated right. They just need a bit of patience.
No, definitely. Yes. I'll spit it as I say the name, but can you remember when John Hall said about having a team full of Geordies at Newcastle? We'd love nothing more than to have that at Sunderland. Not obviously Geordies, but 5-6 local lads in the team would be absolutely phenomenal. And then bringing through your McGeady's or whoever's to complement them. But say we've just got to give them time. And League One is the place to do that. If you get to a Championship, you loan your players to League One teams anyway. So let's give these boys a chance and let's give them some support. So I think they do need that. But I think, chaps, we best be sort of wrapping this up. So one very last question for you both. Saturday's fixture. Can I have a prediction? I'll go with you first, Gary.
I'm going to try and remain positive, but I can't help but think we're due a 1-1 draw. We had 2 tough games against them last season. We got away with them like by the one goal. Obviously, Catamol was no longer with us. He kind of took that one by the scruff of the neck away at their place, and we don't have him anymore. I'm gonna say we're gonna scrape it 2-1 because we just seem to have to concede a goal at the moment. And as you said at the beginning, I think 2-1 might be the new 1-1.
We've got 2-1 there. Bomber, what are you saying?
So I'm going to stay optimistic. You know, I'm a half glass full kind of guy. I wasn't panicking too much when we drew 1-1 Oxford. With AFC Wimbledon, have got 1 point so far. They lost to Ipswich tonight. Admittedly, they went 1-0 up, but it looks like they got battered in the second half. They lost that 2-1. I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go our first clean sheet of the season, and I'm going to go a comfortable, if unconvincing, 2-0 victory.
All right. Well, my glass is overflowing. I'm going to go 3-0. We're going to finally click into gear. I've been waiting for the last year to happen. So 3-0. McGeady, Maguire, White all getting the goals.
So that's a bold prediction. Common goal scorers as well.
That's a bold prediction, mate. So, right then, I'm going to wrap it up though. So this has been the very first ROKER Report Exiles podcast. Gary and Bomber, thank you very much for chatting to me here. And I hope to speak to you guys again soon.
Cheers, Brett.
Cheers for having us.